All right, let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive today into something I know a lot of you have been asking about: how to thrive in this algorithmic economy.
Yeah, it's a hot topic.
We've got some great sources to pull from today. There's this guide on strategic case analysis, a whole book about data strategy in the AI world, and even some brand new research on the subject.
A lot to unpack.
For sure. So I guess first things first, can we define what we're even talking about here? What is this algorithmic economy everyone keeps mentioning?
Well, you know how everyone used to say data is the new oil? It's kind of like that, but even bigger.
Okay.
It's not just that data is valuable, it's that algorithms are now everywhere, shaping how we work, how businesses run, even how we think about value itself.
Okay, so it's not just about robots taking their jobs then.
It's definitely more than that, though, yeah, automation is a big part of it. But one of the things that all these sources emphasize is this idea of data becoming a strategic asset. Like, it's not just information anymore, it's a core resource.
Oh, interesting.
And the way you use that data determines how successful you'll be in this algorithmic economy. They talk about different levels of analytics maturity.
Ooh, like different levels of fluency.
Exactly. Some companies are just using data to describe what happened in the past. Others are using it to make predictions and even prescribe actions.
So it's about how sophisticated you are in using data.
Yeah. And this is where we start to see why everyone's talking about the hybrid professional.
Right, that's what I was thinking about too. That we need to be good at our traditional jobs, but also have these data skills.
Exactly. It's not enough to just be a marketer or a finance person or whatever. You need to be a marketer who understands data. You need to be a finance person who can analyze trends.
So are we all supposed to become data scientists on top of everything else?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's great if you want to go that route, but it's more about understanding how data interacts with your specific job.
Hmm.
One of the sources actually gives this really cool framework called Digital R to help with this. It's designed for case analysis, but it applies more broadly too.
Digital R. Catchy. What does that stand for?
It stands for Data-Driven Insights, Integration of Sources, Governance and Compliance, Technology and Security, AI Ethics and Innovation, Legal and Regulatory Aspects, and lastly, Risk Management.
Whoa, that's a lot.
It is, but it basically covers all the bases when you're thinking about making decisions in this data-driven world.
So it's not just about being good at spreadsheets.
Definitely not. You've got to think about the ethics, the legal stuff, the potential risks. It's a whole new way of thinking.
Okay, this is definitely making me rethink how I approach my work.
It should. This algorithmic economy is changing everything.
So we've talked about how it impacts people in general,
Well,
but what about people who are already in data-focused roles? How does this change things for them?
I think it's both exciting and challenging for them.
Oh, how so?
On one hand, there's huge demand for their skills. The sources are saying we need more people who are skilled in AI, machine learning, all that stuff.
Makes sense.
But the field is also evolving so rapidly, it's not just about the tech skills anymore.
What else is there?
You're seeing all these new roles popping up: AI ethics specialist, sustainability manager.
Interesting.
It highlights how data isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about using data to solve big, complex human problems responsibly, ethically.
Yeah, it feels like if you're in the data world, you can't just stand still. You've got to be constantly learning.
Exactly. Adaptability, global mindset, continuous learning. Those are the keys to survival in this new landscape.
Okay, so we've talked about what this algorithmic economy is and some of the skills it requires, but let's be real for a second. What are the downsides?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest concerns is job displacement.
Yeah, that's the part that worries me the most.
Automation is changing the nature of work, and some jobs are definitely going to disappear. The sources are pretty clear about that.
So it's like a race against the machines.
In some ways, yeah. But the sources also talk about all the potential benefits: increased efficiency, better decisions, new business models we can't even imagine yet.
Okay, so there are two sides to this coin. Exciting possibilities, but also anxieties.
Exactly.
So how do we as individuals prepare for all of this? How do we thrive in this new world?
That's the million-dollar question, and I'm glad you asked because the sources actually have some really great advice. And one of the biggest things they emphasize is lifelong learning.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that would be crucial.
It's not like you learn one new skill and you're good to go. This algorithmic economy, it's all about continuous learning.
Always adapting.
Exactly.
Okay, so lifelong learning, check. What else?
Data literacy.
Okay, so does that mean we all need to become data scientists?
Not necessarily, but you do need to understand how to work with data, how to interpret it, spot patterns, draw conclusions.
Hmm. Interesting. So it's like data is becoming its own language.
You could say that. And just like with any language, the more fluent you are, the better you'll be able to communicate. And the more successful you'll be in this new economy.
So it's not just about the tech skills. It's about being able to think in a data-driven way.
Exactly.
And how about those soft skills everyone always talks about?
Yeah.
Are those still important in this data-driven world?
More important than ever.
Really?
Think about it. If algorithms are taking over all the routine tasks, what's left for us humans to do?
The stuff that requires creativity, critical thinking, collaboration.
Right, and all those things rely on soft skills, communication, empathy, problem solving.
So it's like the more technology advances, the more important our human skills become.
I think so. The sources also talk a lot about developing a global mindset and cross-cultural communication skills.
Oh yeah, because this algorithmic economy,
Yeah.
it's not limited by borders.
Exactly. You could be working with people from all over the world.
Okay, so lifelong learning, data literacy, soft skills, global mindset. That's a lot to keep in mind.
It is. But it's all doable. And, for those who embrace it, the rewards can be huge.
I can imagine.
So we talked about all the skills you need, but let's go back to that digital R framework for a minute, because I think it can really help us put all of this into practice.
Yeah, okay, let's dive into that. Remind me again what it stands for.
So D is for.
Data-driven insights.
Right. And this is where those data analytics skills come in.
Ooh, yeah, okay. So everyone talks about data analytics these days, but what does it actually mean?
Well, it's about using data to answer questions, to spot trends, to make better decisions.
Okay, I get that. But isn't data analytics a pretty broad term? Are there different types?
Absolutely. There's descriptive analytics, which is basically about understanding what happened in the past.
So looking back.
Yeah,
Uh,
using data to tell a story about what's already happened. Then there's predictive analytics, which is about using data to, well, predict the future.
Whoa, hold on. Predict the future. Is that even possible?
It's not about knowing for sure what will happen, but it's about using data to make educated guesses.
Interesting.
Like, imagine a bank using data to assess a customer's credit risk, or a retailer using data to predict next season's fashion trends.
So it's like having a crystal ball.
Kind of, but a crystal ball powered by data and algorithms.
Okay, I can see how that would be valuable.
And then there's prescriptive analytics, which takes it even further. It's not just about predicting what might happen, but also recommending what to do about it.
Oh, cool. So instead of just saying, hey, it looks like a storm is coming, it's also saying, here's what you should do to prepare.
Exactly. It's about using data to guide decision-making.
Okay, these are all really powerful tools. But honestly, it's a bit overwhelming. How does a regular person even begin to learn all this stuff?
The good news is that you don't need to become a data scientist overnight.
Woo.
There are so many resources available now. Online courses, tutorials, you name it. Start small, find what interests you, and just start playing around with data.
So it's about just diving in and getting our hands dirty.
Exactly. And remember, these data analytics skills are becoming valuable in every industry.
Right. No matter what you do, data is going to play a role.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the D in digital R.
Data-driven insights. What's next?
I, integration of sources.
Ah, right. So we were talking earlier about data being like oil, but isn't it more like crude oil? Like it needs to be refined before it's truly useful.
I love that analogy. And that's where integration comes in.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that the most valuable insights often come from connecting the dots between different data sets.
So it's like one data set might tell you what people are buying online,
Right. And another data set might tell you what they're buying in stores.
and by combining those two,
Mm-hmm.
you get a much richer picture of their behavior.
Exactly. And that's where things like data architecture come in.
Okay.
You need systems and processes that can handle all that complexity, that can bring all that data together.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about having the right infrastructure to manage it.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got data-driven insights, integration of sources. What's G?
Governance and compliance,
Right.
honestly. That one always sounds a bit boring to me.
I know it doesn't have the same pizzazz as AI and algorithms.
Yeah, but it's still important, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in this data-driven world, we're dealing with so much information.
And a lot of it is really sensitive.
Exactly. So you need to have strong governance structures in place.
So it's about making sure the data is used responsibly, ethically.
Legally.
Exactly. Okay, I'm getting it now.
Data governance. It involves establishing clear policies and procedures for how data is collected, stored, used, disposed of.
So it's like rules of the road for data.
Yeah, good way to put it.
So who's in charge of all this? Is there like a chief data ethics officer or
You
something?
know, it's not always that clear-cut.
Okay.
In some companies, there might be a dedicated team, but the reality is that everyone who works with data has a responsibility here.
So it's about building a culture of responsibility around data.
Exactly. Okay, we're making good progress. What's next on our digital R journey?
T, right. Technology and security.
You got it. And this is where things get really exciting.
Yeah, the tech. But honestly, it
Ugh.
can also be pretty overwhelming.
For sure. There's a lot going on in this space.
Like, do we all need to become programmers now?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
But it is helpful to have a basic understanding of the key technologies. Cloud computing, big data platforms, artificial intelligence.
Ooh, yeah, those are the buzzwords I hear all the time.
Mhm.
But I'm not always sure what they actually mean.
Well, let's start with cloud computing. Imagine having a giant data center at your fingertips,
What?
accessible from anywhere.
Okay.
That's essentially what cloud computing offers. It gives you access to all this storage space, processing power, software, and you can access it all online.
So instead of having your own servers and all that,
Right.
you're basically renting space in the cloud.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is it's super flexible. You can easily scale your resources up or down depending on your needs.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about those big data platforms I keep hearing about?
So those are basically specialized software systems
Right.
designed to handle huge amounts of data.
Right.
They give you the tools to process the data, store it, analyze it, visualize it, all that good stuff.
So they're kind of like the operating system for the data world.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. And then there's the big one, artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes.
Um,
AI. It's everywhere these days.
It is. What exactly is its role in this algorithmic economy?
Well, AI is basically the engine that's driving a lot of this change.
Okay.
It's a broad term,
Hmm.
but it basically refers to any technique that allows computers to learn from data.
So machine learning, deep learning, all that stuff.
Exactly. And AI is being used to automate tasks, personalize experiences, extract insights from data.
It's changing everything.
It really is. But it's also important to remember that AI isn't magic. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
That's true.
And that's why all those other elements of digital R are so crucial. The governance, the ethics, the risk management.
Yeah, it all connects. We can't just focus on the shiny new tech and ignore the bigger picture.
Exactly. All right, we've covered a lot of ground already, but we've still got a few more letters to go in digital R, and we're going to be talking about some really big questions.
Sounds intriguing. Can't wait to dive in. Okay, so we're back and ready to finish up this deep dive into digital R. We've covered data, tech, governance. What's next?
Well, now we're getting into the really interesting stuff, the part where the algorithmic economy bumps up against some big philosophical questions.
Oh, sounds intense.
The next letter is A, AI ethics and innovation.
AI ethics. That's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about. All this talk about algorithms making decisions. It's both fascinating and a little scary.
Yeah, it's a huge topic, and it's one that everyone working in this space is grappling with.
So how do we make sure these systems are used ethically, especially as they become more powerful?
Well, AI ethics is still a pretty new field, but there are some core principles that are starting to emerge. Fairness, transparency, accountability, and privacy.
Okay, those sound like good principles, but can we break them down a bit? What does fairness even mean when we're talking about algorithms?
It means making sure that AI systems don't perpetuate or even amplify existing biases.
Right, because algorithms are trained on data, right? And if the data is biased,
And the algorithm will be biased too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's say you're using an algorithm to make loan decisions or hiring decisions. If the data you use to train that algorithm reflects historical inequalities,
then the algorithm might discriminate against certain groups.
even if that's not what you intended.
That's a really important point. It's not enough to just assume that algorithms are neutral.
Right. We have to be very careful about the data we use to train them. And we have to be constantly monitoring them to make sure they're not producing unfair outcomes.
So fairness is about mitigating bias.
Hmm.
What about transparency? Why is that so important?
Transparency means being able to understand how an AI system arrived at a particular decision.
Okay.
It's not enough to just get an answer from an algorithm. We need to know why it gave us that answer.
So it's like being able to see the algorithm's thought process.
In a way, yeah. And this is important for a few reasons.
Like what?
Well, first of all, it helps us build trust. If we can understand how an algorithm works,
Okay.
we're more likely to trust its decisions.
Right. Because it's not just a black box anymore.
Exactly. And secondly, transparency helps us hold people accountable.
Okay.
If something goes wrong, if an algorithm makes a bad decision, we need to be able to figure out why and who's responsible.
So it's about being able to trace back the decision-making process.
Right. But it's not always easy. Some AI techniques, like deep learning, can be really complex.
Yeah.
It can be hard to understand how they work, even for the people who created them.
So how do we address that?
Well, researchers are working on developing more transparent AI systems where it's easier to see what's going on under the hood.
That's good to hear. Okay, so we've got fairness, transparency. What was the next one?
Accountability.
Right. So what happens when an AI system does make a mistake or causes harm?
Yeah.
Who's responsible?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer.
Okay.
Is it the developers, the company that deployed the system, the users? It's a really tricky legal and ethical issue.
Yeah, it feels like we're in uncharted territory here.
You are, and it's something that we're going to have to figure out as we go along.
Well, hopefully we can figure it out before something really bad happens.
Hopefully. And that's where innovation comes in.
Okay.
The goal of AI ethics isn't to stop innovation.
Okay.
It's about making sure that innovation is responsible and aligned with human values.
So it's a balancing act.
Exactly. We need to encourage research and development in AI, but we also need to be mindful of the potential risks.
Okay, AI ethics and innovation. Lots to think about there. What's L?
L is for legal and regulatory aspects.
Ah, yes. The lawyers.
Well, the law is always trying to catch up with technology, and the algorithmic economy is no exception. We're seeing a whole wave of new laws and regulations aimed at addressing the challenges of AI and data.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure. Data privacy is a huge one.
Yeah. GDPR, CCPA, I hear about those all the time.
Exactly. Those laws are setting new standards for how companies can collect, use, and share personal data.
So companies are having to rethink how they handle data.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a whole new ballgame.
And I'm guessing there are other laws and regulations we need to be aware of.
Oh, tons. There are laws about cybersecurity, intellectual property, consumer protection. It's a constantly evolving landscape.
It sounds like a lawyer's dream.
Well, it's definitely keeping lawyers busy. And it's another reminder that the algorithmic economy isn't just about technology. It's about law, ethics, social impact.
It's about everything.
Yeah.
Okay, deep breath. We're at the final letter in digital R, RR.
Risk management?
Okay, so this is where we talk about all the things that could go wrong.
In a way, yeah. But it's not about being pessimistic.
Okay.
It's about being prepared. The algorithmic economy, it comes with a whole new set of risks.
Right.
And we need to have strategies in place to mitigate them.
So what are some of the big risks we should be thinking about?
Well, we've already talked about some of them. Algorithmic bias, data privacy breaches, the ethical implications of AI.
Right.
But there are others too. Cybersecurity threats,
Okay.
model failure, reputational damage, even social unrest if these technologies aren't used responsibly.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot. But
Yeah.
that's why we're having this conversation. The more we understand these risks, the better equipped we'll be to deal with them.
So it's not about ignoring the risks. It's about facing them head on.
Exactly.
Wow, we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
From data analytics to AI ethics to risk management. Digital R really is a roadmap for navigating this new world.
It is. And it highlights how important it is to have a blend of skills, technical skills, business skills, ethical awareness.
It's about being a well-rounded human in a technology-driven world.
I like that.
So what's the big takeaway here? What do we want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that this algorithmic economy, it's not something happening to us.
Okay.
It's something we're all creating together.
Right.
And the more we understand it, the better choices we can make.
So keep learning, stay curious, and help shape this new world for the better.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.